Welcome. Okay, I know the weather is what really brought y'all out because it's been such a beautiful day. And I know that's definitely not true, but so thank you all so much for coming. You're going to be so excited as I am about our speaker today. But welcome to Bank of Tennessee Women Empowered. Women Empowered, for you all that this is your first event, was developed as a resource for each and every one of us to provide resources through events like this today to help us connect both professionally and just, you know, it gives you an outlet to meet other women business owners in the community. So I hope that you've been able to do that today. This is our last event this year. We've had some great events, but I think with this last event, it's so appropriate, and I didn't even realize this, but this October is actually National Women Small Business Month. So, how appropriate. I hope that y'all will continue to follow us through our website for 2015. This is the last event for 2014, but we will start working on our events for 2015. If anybody in here has ideas, suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. You can email me, you can go on our website, and email me directly through the Women Empowered website. Let's see if I can get this. Is your head weary from mind clutter? I know mine is. Today's program will help you reduce mind clutter and start you on the road to an organized mind. Mary Pankiewicz is helping businesses and individuals be more effective in their use of time and space. I've had more emails. I just want y'all to know. I set up this event, and I have had people email me going, oh my gosh, this is fall break. I can't believe you've done this event during fall break because I can't come. So, Mary, we're so excited to have you. And I'm so excited to hear about you because I know a lot of people, I think, that are here have heard you before, and that's why they've come back. But the recommendations that she gives are based on successfully working with hundreds of clients over the past 19 years. She has earned several designations. She is a certified professional organizer in chronic disorganization. I feel disorganized just saying that. And she is an ADD, attention deficit disorder specialist. As a productivity expert, Mary regularly writes for the Knoxville Business Journal and has conducted seminars for the Tennessee Bar Association. She teaches classes on organization and productivity at the University of Tennessee. She works with her business clients on time management and productivity by conducting seminars, executive coaching, and working hands-on with them in their offices. For her residential clients, she works hands-on with them from everything to individual rooms to whole houses. Can you go home with me? They then, and I have to get rid of my husband first though, but they then enjoy the freedom of being clutter-free and organized. Her first book was Fast, Easy Organizing Solutions for Paper Piles in Your Office. Soon to be released is her book on Reduce Mind Clutter, Feel the Freedom, which I hear is real close, right? Yes. Whether you are desperate to get organized or simply want to learn ways to become more efficient with your papers, office, and time, you've come to the right place. Tonight we'll learn simple solutions you can immediately implement. And everybody really wants to know about the frog outside, so. Well, welcome Mary. Mary, thank you.
be a beautiful day. Chase the rain clouds away. So is your head weary? Is it tired at the end of the day? Do you feel like you're working 24/7? Guess what? You probably are. Harold Taylor has a quote that I like. He says, "Work is no longer a place you go and leave." Did anybody sign a paper or raise their hand and say, "I want to work 24/7"? It's just something that's kind of crept up on us, hasn't it? But that's one of the things we're going to talk about. And hopefully during this presentation, it'll give you a chance to pause and think about maybe reducing some of your mind clutter and feeling a little more organized. Because when we're going all the time, we're like being chased by a bear, you know, we're always at a fast pace. And sometimes even at night, we're still being chased by the bear because our mind's churning. I was had a doctor that I was coaching, and he confessed to me that when he couldn't sleep at night, guess what he was doing? He was getting up and doing his email. We had a serious talk about getting up and doing your email at night and productivity the next day. But that just shows that we think, you know, we really ought to be efficient with all our time, is what that shows. So we're going to talk first about controlling your workspace, and then we're going to talk about controlling, maybe setting some boundaries for technology, and also focus and procrastination. And I tell people when I teach a class on procrastination, if I don't practice what I preach, I need to be in that empty chair right there. So it's a subject I know a lot about. And I will say my voice is a little raspy. I had one of those coughs that will not go away. And if I get one of my coughing spells, which I hope I won't, I'm going to turn it over to my daughter for a few minutes to take over. So let's get started. I am going to kind of stick to my notes because each of these topics could be a 2-hour class. And so I really want to make sure that we're on target for where we need to be. One of the first things I like to do is define good organization, because a lot of people I see are what I call organizationally paralyzed because they want to do something the right way. They're afraid they're going to do it the wrong way. And I'm here to tell you good organization is 2 things. If you like it and if it works for you, and if you're the only one in the universe doing it that way, fine. And if you read a hint and suggestion and your way is best, stick with your way. So feel free to experiment. Now, if you're working with somebody, then, you know, on something, then you do have to compromise what will work for both of you. But good organization is if you like it and if it works for you. Also, one of the things I find that really helps people to be more organized is to decide whether they're a visual person or a non-visual person. A visual person is a person that's very content with the things put in the file drawer with a manila file folder and a black Sharpie. The visual person likes color, likes clear, likes to see their stacks. And I'll show you a couple things that you can do if you're a visual person, but just making that decision, I'm a visual person and I'm going to look for visual products, will help you be more organized. So think about it for a minute. How many people think they're non-visual? They're real content with things put away? Okay. How many people think that they're visual? They like color, they like clear, yeah. So there are things out there today that can help you be visual. We all have had the color file folders for years, but many people today in their personal life are taking care of their bills and finances, but they're also taking care of Aunt Sue's bills and finances. Put Aunt Sue in a different color. I love the jackets like this that you can drop paper in. I use red for when I'm going someplace, it has my directions and the information I know, so you can use color. I will occasionally, when I ask questions and people volunteer answers, you will get a pack of these. Pendaflex has a pile smart line. I love it. You can have an organized pile, and they're clear. You know, if it has a jacket on it, it can't slide in a file folder. I mean, surely we don't put it in the wrong file folder. Or maybe it jumps in at night, but if it has a clear jacket on it and it's in stack, then it's an organized stack and you can find what you need. This is something I use. what I call the clutter-free zippy bags. You can organize the world in these things. Again, very clear, very clear. And all the tips I give today, that we're going to be talking about office and business, but you can take the same tip and you can apply it to your home. So I know when I was talking to some of you, you were saying, I really want my house organized. So as I'm talking, thinking about how can I transfer what she's saying to something at home. Starting strategies when you want to get organized. Starting strategies is how do you tackle the desk? You know, the one that, or maybe the presents behind you that has the stagnant stacks. You know, the ones that have been there so long that they have the protective dust shroud on them. I don't think anybody has any of those, but we'll talk about them anyway. Or how do you do the desk that has just gotten out of control because you've had a lot of different projects going on? One of the things I've developed is a system called the CFO system. Instead of starting in the middle of your desk and then getting overwhelmed and deciding to go do something else, the C is you start in the corner. Always start in the corner. And then the F is, and now this is something you may not have heard before, but if you want to be efficient going through stacks of paper, get on your feet. You have more blood in your brain and you make faster decisions when you're on your feet. And when I'm working with a client, I take a box and put it on the desk so they're not bent over. But you will flip through those stacks of paper much faster when you're on your feet. And you'll also have some other benefits. Let me just move something right here. So when should you stand at your desk? And I'm not talking about working for 8 hours standing, but there are benefits at certain times to stand. Stand when the job is complicated and you're having a hard time just seeing the forest for the trees. Go to some place where you can stand. If you dislike a job, you have something you really don't like to do, try getting on your feet. I got an email from somebody after I did a program and she says, every month I have this tedious thing and I hate to do it. And she said, I tried standing and it was painless and it went by in a snap. So that's another time to stand. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my mind goes to mush. So that's another time you might want to stand. Or if you're just, like I say, trying to figure out something that's difficult. People that stand periodically have less back problems, but also, this might be interesting. This came out of the Good Housekeeping this month, and it's talking about, would you like to run 10 marathons or stand 3 extra hours a day, 5 days a week? If you do that, you'll lose the same amount of weight as if you ran the 3 marathons. Standing burns almost an extra calorie per minute, and over a year that can add up to 30,000 calories. Now, isn't that interesting? So when can you stand? Obviously, I'm talking about when you're tackling stagnant stacks. But often people are now having walking meetings. Or when the phone rings, make it a habit to stand. So another benefit for standing. And for some of you that answer questions, you will get a little stand-up person to remind you of the power of standing. I will show you this little picture. You also, when you stand, you'll get the stand-up award because you have more clarity, you have more focus, you're more decisive, you have more stamina, and you have more speed. Again, I'm not talking about standing for 8 hours, but is there some place that you could have, that you could work standing up periodically during the day? I had one client, and you can go on YouTube and see it. She actually had the treadmill on the standing desk and the computer. Now, I would kill myself. But she had actually had a wood base built around her, which I thought was a good safety thing. But she would be up there on the computer and doing this. Now, I could never do that. But there are also, on my website, there's something, if you want a standing desk, there's a company that has one that you can put on top of your desk. Portable bars make nice standing desks. Some offices have a filing cabinet that is a nice area to work on. Blue Cross Blue Shield in their Chattanooga office has every desk where it goes up and down. And I think they know it's because it's a health benefit if you stand periodically. So the F is for standing. So you start in the corner. You get on your feet if you have lots of stagnant stacks. And the O is you work across in a line. Now, as you're going through these stacks, beware of scattering. You're going to raise your stress level. See if you can see yourself doing this. You pick up something and you go, oh, and you lay it aside. And you pick up something else and you go, oh, and you lay that aside. You're looking for something in the stack you want to do. Guess what? There is nothing in the stack you want to do. But something else has happened. Now, instead of one decision in front of you, you now have 5 decisions. And that raises your stress level. So when you realize you're doing that, pull the stack back together. Remember Mary's quote. You can smile and say, Mary said, beware of scattering, and pull the stack back together. So the CFO is a system that you can use to keep you on target. Something else you can do to help you stay on target is use your calendar for your benefit. We have all sorts of other people's things on our calendar, but start putting your work on your calendar. A client that I was coaching realized when he started putting his work on his calendar that he really didn't need to be at all these meetings that he'd agreed to be to. A lot of times just getting a summary was enough. And when he started getting his work on his calendar and doing his work in a timely fashion, he wasn't coming in on Saturday or staying late or coming in early because he was doing his work more efficiently. There's another benefit too, is if you have a project and we keep it out so we don't forget it, if we put it on our calendar, we don't have to have the stack sitting there. But here's my tip. Don't ever put it away till you get it on your calendar. And if it's something 6 months out, write on your calendar where you put it. And I say that because I had a lawyer in one of my classes at UT, and she got the first part. She started putting stuff away and forgot that she put it away, and she didn't put it on her calendar. And they went to archives and everything looking for this. So if I could do a little tap dance on the table, I would say never put the stack away till you put it on your calendar. But you can clear away a lot of stacks if the reminder is on your calendar. You have a visual reminder there. So use your calendar to your full. Desk rescue. Desk rescue is something that you may want to do at the end of the day. People say that research says if you leave an organized desk that you actually relax more in the evening and the weekend. But if you have a lot of projects during the day coming in, you know, all of a sudden you have to get this out and then somebody calls you, you get that out, and your desk is getting stressful. You may want to do desk rescue. But here's the trick on desk rescue, is you stand up, you pull back the chair, and you just start on the corner and go like items together. And by standing up, this will happen really quickly. You'll know what you need to focus on. Your productivity is going to go up, and your stress is going to go down. So remember desk rescue, something you may want to do in the middle of the day, but also at the end of the day. Now my office is 50 feet from my house, and occasionally Rachel will call me at 9 o'clock at night, and she says, are you coming home tonight? And there are nights when I don't care. I'll just say, I just want to get out of here. Let me get my office cat out, and let me get out. And my office cat is really one of my office assistants. So, but the first thing I do that morning when I come in, before I sit down to do anything, is I do desk rescue. So remember desk rescue. It can be really beneficial. So those are some things that will help you control your environment. You know, we can't control a lot of things that happen in our professional world. We can't control the next phone call that's coming in, the next crisis that's going to come in. But if we do have control of our environment, we can handle these things better. We can handle these things better. In fact, clutter management means stress management. So we talked about those stagnant stacks. Here's some questions to ask yourself when you're trying to go through them. And I want you to think what you normally ask yourself, or what we normally generally do, is say, will I ever need this? What's the answer to that question? And what's the real answer to that question? Maybe. Who knows? So then I better keep it. Right. Here's a tip. This is a hot tip. If you'll take it away today, scratch out the will I and ask yourself, what will make me need this? What will make me need this? When my clients look at me and they have this question mark on their face, I'll say, well, what will make you need this? And that just one or two things. They'll say, I need it because, and they know where to put it. But often they smile and go, I'm not going to need it. But it's a way of processing it. Does someone else have a copy? I was doing an office one time, there's this big stack of papers on the floor, and I said, well, tell me about this. And he said, well, that has a lot to do with some counting information. And I said, is that part of your job too? And he goes, no, that's Joe. And I said, I could tell by the dust, and it said not been touched in a while. And I said, if you need this information down the road, do you think Joe would give it to you? Well, yeah. So, do you have to keep everything if it's somebody else really is in charge of that information? And is it current in my work projects today? I often do a program for companies, and then I do a program in the morning and the coaching of the group in the afternoon. And a lot of people have files that projects they used to be on, things that they used to do, committees, and they're running across the hall taking it to the persons doing that. And sometimes people have things that they're not sure if they're supposed to keep or not. And I'll say, well, take it to the powers that be and ask the question, do you need it? And just doing that often makes a lot of space in the file drawers. So is it current with the work you're doing today? So as we talk about getting organized, if I could read some of your minds, how many of you are thinking, this sounds good, but I don't have any time? How many of you are really honest? Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you 2 tips that could make a difference for you. One is what I call the 15-minute miracle. Set a timer, we're all children at heart, and just do something for 15 minutes. People have told me that that has changed their life. You don't have to plan an hour, you don't have to plan a half a day, but maybe you could just tackle one thing, 15 minutes. And at the end of that 15 minutes, say, hey, today's been an organizing success, tomorrow's another day. So remember the 15-minute miracle. And then I have another quote that goes, a stack a day makes the stacks go away. I mean, an inch stack of paper has about 90 to 100 sheets. Who wants to come in and do stack after stack after stack? That's depressing. So just maybe do a stack a day and do it while you're standing. Remember, if you do it while you're standing, that stack's going to go away a lot faster. So if you change your thinking, and that's a tip that you can use in your home projects too. A tip that you can use in your home projects. Okay, controlling technology. Do you feel like you're being bombarded by stuff all the time? What we want to do is make technology work for us and not we work for it. Sometimes I'll hold up the cell phone and I'll say, look how small this is. And how much does it control our lives? How much does it control our lives? Think about having a lunch and not taking your cell phone in with you. I had a person that heard me speak, and then she later told me, she said she went to a lunch and she forgot her cell phone. She said, I have never enjoyed anything so much in my life, because she wasn't constantly interrupted by the phone. So when we think about reducing mind clutter, it really has to do with controlling technology, because isn't it technology that has us on all the time? Isn't it technology that has us on all the time? Talk to your neighbor for a minute about what is the biggest distractions you have in your work. Just talk to your neighbors for a minute about that. they think is their biggest distraction?
Email.
Email, doing.
Meeting Christian singles to. There are probably 150 a day, and I'm afraid not to go through them because there'll be somebody that just knew that comes in on that email that they throw this time. And it's terrible. Meet Alexis in Russia or whatever.
So, anybody else got anything besides email? Yes. Interruptions. Yeah. Interruptions. How about somebody else? Somebody raise their hand and say phone. Telephone. So we got two over there and one. Okay. So controlling distractions. And you know the distractions are such a problem though that we really have gotten so we almost like the interruptions and distractions. We say we don't, but we do. So email, how do we manage email? And did you know that a lot of people today, and I'm not talking about teenagers, are addicted to technology? Yeah. And so that's something of interest too. In fact, the United States now has joined countries like Japan with technology addiction centers. Now, you know, that's not to say we don't all love our technology. I mean, I love when I'm in the car having my phone as a protection, you know, because you know that you have car trouble. But you might want to try sometimes just leaving your phone, you know, having a technology-free lunch and see what it does for your afternoon. Just having some downtime. Information overload. You were talking about all the email that comes in. I mean, we have more information. And did you know there's a medical term now called information anxiety? Because we think we need to be on top of everything. We think we need to be actually, you know it all, and we can't. Did you know that you could read 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year in your given profession, and you wouldn't have read everything that was written in it? So I tell my clients in your business world, you can only be on top of what is critical in your profession. We don't have time for nice to know or interesting because there's just too much. And in your personal world, only things that you have a passion for. You know, if you have a hobby or something like that, then funnel it down to one particular area. So you can have information on that, but we really can't handle information on everything. And really, has anybody read Blank, Malcolm Gladwell's book?
Which book?
Blank?
Oh, yeah. I've read it.
Yeah. And, you know, he was saying that really, I mean, obviously when we're making a decision, we have to have some information. But at some point, you get so much information that you can't make a decision. So do a little bit of research and make a decision. But basically, he said most of the time, trust your gut. That your gut will give you the best direction of what you should do. And he gives a lot of interesting examples on that. And as we talk about the technology and distractions, did you know there's a book written called about the distraction addiction? Yeah. And it is interesting. And he talks about multitasking, and I'll share a little bit about what he says when we get to multitasking. But we don't like the distractions, but then we're so used to the distractions that they feel more comfortable. A doctor, Ed Holloway, is an ADD doctor. And he says he's having, and finally he wrote a book about this, he had so many executives coming to him saying, I think I have ADD, I think I have ADD. And he says, well, why? And he says, well, I can't focus, I'm forgetting things, I'm jumping from one thing to another. And he tested them, and they don't. But the thing is that we're so used to the email, the phone, the beeps on the email, text messaging, that our minds have gotten so that they really can't focus on something. So I thought that was interesting, and wrote his book, he called it Distractibility Addiction. So distractions are a big part of what interrupt us. Email, by the way, they say the most efficient way to use your time is not to come in the morning and do email. Come in the morning and deal with the thing you left on your desk because you said it was critical. Because once you get into your email, what happens to your morning? It's gone. So deal with what's critical that when you leave, you say, well, this is the most important thing I've got to do. And isn't that the thing that sometimes keeps us at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, because we haven't gotten to it? So it goes against our nature, I know, ingrained, not to check our voice messages and not to do email. But really, to start your day with that is the most inefficient way to start your day. And one of you was raised your hand and you said people coming by. Another thing, if you work in an office and all of a sudden you close your door, then people get worried. But, like, what's going on? But if you tell everybody from 10 to 11, I'm closing my door so I can get some work done, then they understand. So a lot of times the comfort level of being able to close your door periodically is communicating around with those around you while you're closing your door. And tell, if smoke's coming out of the air vent, please notify me. please let me get some work done. So that's something to think about. So when we think about boundaries, we have to kind of set some boundaries on some of the technology. How about not doing any work when you're on vacation? Because let's face it, I could have my feet in the sand and looking at the beautiful ocean, and if I get a call from work about a problem, where is my body? Is it relaxed? No. Research shows it really takes 2 or 3 days for a person to come down out of the stress of work. And if you're doing email and answering phone calls all the time, guess what? Your body never has that opportunity to come down. We talked about taking a technology-free lunch. Some families are having 1 day a week, on the weekend, technology-free, where they just really are doing hobbies, relaxing, communicating. Some families are saying they're going to have a technology-free meal. For some people today, even with the family, and you see this in restaurants all the time. Everybody's, there, and they're all on the phone. And they may have gone to a lot of effort to get together. So, sometimes setting some boundaries. And, think too of the example you're setting for your children. I know I gave this presentation, and one person came up to me afterwards and she said, I'm not going to talk on my cell phone anymore when I have my children in the car. I'm going to talk to my children. Another man came up after a presentation and he said, I used to read at the dinner table. I'm not going to read, I'm going to talk to my children. Some families are saying, okay, at 10 o'clock at night or whatever time they decide, all technology is being lined up here in the kitchen, parents included. It sets an example for the children, but I don't know, have you read that teenagers are texting till 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning? And we adults are beginning to accept this. Some of my clients, I'm there to work with their stuff and that's it. Some of my clients, I'm doing a lot of coaching with them as I'm doing. So this client I was with, I was there to work with her stuff, so I didn't say what I was thinking. She says, somehow this came up. And she says, well, I monitor, this was a doctor. She says, I monitor what my daughter does. She doesn't text anybody at night, she only answers them. Now, I don't need to say anymore. But I guess, and I point that out, is how this stuff has gradually become the norm. And if you want to reduce the mind clutter, sometimes you have to decide what is norm for you. And what I'd like everybody to do is just talk for a minute amongst yourself and think about, is there something that you're willing to put a boundary on technology? Talk to your group, the people around you for a few minutes. Anybody willing to say what they're going to set a boundary on?
Yeah, I'm so very, I'm not learning to text. Absolutely not learning to text, because to learn to do it, you'll have to do it. Now, I understand that my friends, and then my friend right over here says you have to do it to deal with your grandchildren. But if you don't learn it, you don't have to do it.
I was with you a long time. I'm being pushed against the wall, but I'm going with it.
I don't have grandchildren, so I'm not text.
Anybody else? Yes.
I would start turning my phone. I think that, yeah.
Why don't you give her a stand up man? Anybody else? Yes.
We have a group of girls that meets for dinner like once a month. So we started initiating this. We all put our phones in the middle of the table. And the first one who reaches for their phone during our meal picks up the bill for the whole.
So, this is part of just thinking about our lives, deciding what's important to us, setting some boundaries, and reducing mind clutter. You know, if we have some downtime, we're not being chased by the bear all the time. We're not being chased by the bear all the time. So I want you all to be thinking, though, if you didn't come up with one in the back of your mind, because the little colored cards are for action cards, and we'll review later, and I want everybody to maybe come up with something that they can put as a boundary. I'm going to talk about focus time. This is the hardest thing for me to get clients to agree to, and it has the biggest benefits. So let's just start off with what everybody's thinking. Everybody say, it won't work for me. 1, 2, 3. It won't work for me. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Let's figure out how to make it work. David Allen says, it's not that we have too much to do, we have too many unfinished things hanging over our head. And focus time, if it's done right, will allow us to leave at 5 o'clock or not come in on Saturday to do the work that we didn't get done during the day. Now, I'm not talking about getting out and just telling people you're not available for 4 hours, but blocks of time where you can accomplish something. And think about when your body clock is. If you're a morning person, that's the time to do the detailed reports or whatever. But you really need to think about focus time. We talked about closing the door, letting other people know why the door is closed so there's no anxiety there. My mind just went blank for a second. Do a mind up, yeah, that's right. And one of the things that decided was important is to do a mind dump. Toss down on paper the things that are on your mind and then look at them and figure out what's important. And if you decided you're going to work on a project, and things keep popping into your head about other things, instead of getting up and chasing the squirrel, just write down what the name of the squirrel was so you can look at it later. Because chasing the squirrel is taking us off task. And to get focus time, you need to turn off your phone, and 100% of the time, unless your job requires it, you need to turn off the email beep. People have told me that turning off that email beep has done more for them to be productive than anything. And even if your job requires you to be responding on email, often if you talk to your boss, you can find out you only need to do it every 30 minutes or every hour. This is another addiction. I was called into work with someone that was kind of on the verge of almost losing her job. And yet she refused to turn off her email beep. She was so addicted to it.
But that's a phone beep, right? It doesn't beep if you're on a computer.
Your email, when it comes in, you have the little thing that comes in and tells you new emails come in. Well, good. See, you don't have to turn it off. But research shows that it takes 20 minutes to get back on target. Because once you do that email, well, I might as well answer this one. And so deciding how often you need to respond to email. Some people are putting out a response to email. I respond to email at noon and at 4 o'clock. Because that way the person doesn't call, did you get my email? You know, which if it's a crisis, it's one thing. They should be using the phone anyway. But it's like, you know, people expect that automatic response, and by sending out a reply that you're getting responded to at 12 or 4, it tells people, yes, I got it, I'll take care of it. So that's something new. Multitasking is the opposite of focus time. And we live in a world where people think that you should multitask. I should be able to do 2 or 3 things at once. Research shows, yes, you can multitask. Yes, in the kitchen, we multitask. You know, we're cooking this, we're cooking that, we're grading this, we're whatever. But it's all on one subject. That's not, and if you're doing research and you have information on your phone, you have the information on your iPad, you have the information on your computer, and it's all on one subject, that's your mind's fine. But many times we're trying to do all these things on different subjects and thinking we're efficient. The book on the distraction addiction gives a real simple exercise that shows that our minds don't work that way. And they actually can take pictures of the mind. What's happening is the mind is going on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. And that's why we're not effective. So if you're used to multitasking, think about it, because it's probably eating up a lot of your time and mental energy. So if it's something that's not detailed, yeah, you can do 2 or 3 things. But if you're trying to do that detailed report, and the email beeps coming in, the phone, you know, that's not focus time. So think about focus time and the benefits that will come to you if you do that focus time. So in a minute I'll be asking people to jot down maybe how they could get focus time. And then when you decide what hour it is, tell everybody about it and put it on your calendar. Procrastination. Anybody here procrastinate? My hand goes way up, you know. If it takes less than 3 to 5 minutes, try to do it now. Realize that many things seem like they take a lot longer. I was in an office working with an individual, and we were working on our office, and she told me, she said, I'm paying a lot of late fees, and it's not because I don't have money in the bank. And guess what we ran across? A bill that was due in 2 days. I said, why don't you pay that? I timed her. It took her 3 minutes. She looked at me and she says, that feels like a 15-minute project. So realize a lot of things that you have to fill in the blanks to do that, you know, feel bigger than they are. Try to get them done. When mail comes in, this is particularly a tip at home, I'll look at it later, I'll decide later, I'll think about it later. Later's not a day on your calendar. So do your mail standing up and go through and ask yourself, did I ask for this piece of mail? If I have to make a decision, do I have all the information I need? Occasionally we need to talk to somebody else. But often we lay it aside and we never get back to it. And who gets up on Saturday morning and goes, oh, it's a beautiful day outside. I'm just so excited I get to go through all this old mail. And trust me, when I do big clients' houses, we find, you know, laundry baskets full of mail that they stuffed aside and the company came on, you know. I won't ask if you have any of those. And here's a procrastination tip that works for me. If I don't want to do it now, I surely am not going to want to do it later. So I say, Mary, just do it now. So remember to do it now. Now, the frogs have 2 benefits. And as you go out, you get to pick your color and pick your frog. One is, don't be a leapfrog organizer. Remember I said work on the stack and then do the next stack and then do the next stack? A leapfrog organizer will work really hard And they'll pick up something here, pick up something here, pick it here, and move a lot of stuff. But at the end of the hour, they look around and they go, what's the use? This doesn't look any different. And guess what we do at that point? We quit. That's right, we quit. So the frogs remind you not to be a leapfrog organizer. Use the CFO system. But the frog has another thing too to remind you. Mark Twain has a quote that I like. If you have to eat a live green toad, eat it first thing in the morning. Now, if this toad was wiggling in front of you, how big would it be at 4 o'clock? You know, how big as a table? And that's important to remember because research shows, and they did the research on executives, homemakers, people stocking grocery shelves. If you have something you're procrastinating on, anybody ever have the dreaded phone call? You know, the one that you think about making, you get the knot in your stomach. I'll make it at 10 o'clock. I'll make it right before lunch. I'll make it right after lunch. And this is a good day, I'll make it tomorrow. Research shows that when you do that, everything you do that day will take longer. Everything you do, it's like a mental black bag that just gets heavier and heavier. And so, theoretically, I've swallowed a lot of toads. I just remember, you know, you get that phone call you got to make, and everybody say to themselves, and see if you can say it with a straight face. Most people can't. If I have to eat a live green toad, eat it first thing in the morning. Just say it. If I have to eat a live green toad, eat it first thing in the morning. There is something about saying that that makes an internal shift of, okay, I'll make that phone call, or I'll do whatever. So that's the reason for your frog. That is the reason for your frog. So you've got a card. This is your action card. Because I know what happens. You go to a presentation and you go home with a handout. And I just came back from a conference. And you think, well, I'm going to look at this. Yeah. I even brought it in the other day and it's still sitting there. And I don't know whether I'll ever get back to that. You know, it was good information. Fantastic conference. It was on chronic disorder section. The action card is, notice it's colored. So you can keep it out and remind you of some things that you want to take action on. So I'm going to go through a few things and just jot down what you think is going to make your life better. Controlling your near environment. Do you want to remember to buy visual products? Do you want to remember the CFO system? Do you want to remember to be on your feet? Is that something you want to jot down? Do you want to remember desk rescue? Is that something that maybe you want to remember? So write down the things that really mean something to you, not everything. I hope everybody will write down what will make me need this and underline the what will, because that will make a huge difference on the amount of items that you keep. Okay, controlling technology. What are you willing to set a boundary on? I'm going to read some things. If you haven't picked out something, maybe you can pick out some of this. Maybe every day you're going to have a telephone-free lunch. If you do, you'll be more productive in the afternoon and have more creativity, a lot of benefits. Maybe you're not going to take work with you anymore on vacation. Maybe you're going to have everybody in the family dock their phones at night. Maybe that's something. Or maybe you want to have a tech-free dinner with your family every night when you have dinner with your family, or when you have a meal with them. Maybe you're going to decide you're going to talk to your children when you're in the car with them instead of talking on the phone. So think about some boundaries. Focus plan. So what are you going to do to have a focus plan? Are you going to close the door occasionally to your office? Are you going to put focus time on your calendar and tell everybody in your office what you're doing? Are you going to think about sometimes you just need to find a quiet place to leave your desk and go do some work that you need to do? Sometimes that helps. And are you going to stop trying to multitask when you're doing detailed work. When you really need to get your mind wrapped around something, do it. And that'll prevent you from coming in Saturday to do it when it's quiet. But who wants to spend their Saturday working? Procrastination. Everybody gonna remember the frog? Pick out your frog as you're going out the door. And remember, do it now. Keeping your action card out will motivate you to keep thinking about what we've talked about and have a clutter-free mind and feel more organized. So keep your action card out. And so I'd like a couple people who would be willing to stand and tell us one thing that's on their action card. Anybody willing to stand up and tell? Get a nice reward.
What will make me need this?
Okay.
That's a great question.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
A focused plan where there's time on my calendar where I'm alone, because I'm almost never alone at work.
Excellent. And explain to everybody why you're doing it, and they won't interrupt and they won't be worried. Yes.
That, does someone else have a copy? Because I tend to go paperless and everything I get in, whether it be like my insurance or things like that, I tend to scan it in to keep it in an electronic file. And so a lot of those things, the insurance company probably has them. I don't need to keep copies of all of them.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else? Yes.
I like that procrastination, time tornado, the do it now, because I tend to think, oh God, this is just gonna take so much time. But, you know, like, it doesn't really take a long time, but I go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to have something on my computer that says do it now. I'll keep you focused.
Good, good, good. The typical piece of paper is touched 8 times on the desk before it's handled. 8 times on the desk before it's handled. So we're going to do a question and answer, and as I start out the question and answer period, we've got a few more minutes. I want you to fill out this if you want to, because we'll be doing drawing with these. So as we start out the question and answer period, I'm going to answer a couple questions that may be on your mind. What is the challenging disorganization? How do you get certified for that? Well, what we study is true people that keep a lot of things. But so, and then, are you filling out your sheet for the drawing? Okay, okay. But we also study a lot of health issues because did you know that things like endometriosis causes brain fog? And, you know, fibromyalgia causes brain fog. There are a lot of things that affect a person not being organized, and it helps if we know this because then when we work with clients, we can help them understand there's nothing wrong with them. This is a situation that's created it. So that's one of the things. We also study a lot about ADD and ADHD. I mentioned occasionally, I think, of working with phone clients. And that's probably easy to understand when we talk about time management. But I actually have clients in different parts of the countries that I have, probably there isn't a thing that I haven't organized. Where I have organized people's closets for them over the phone. Their dining room table that's full of stacks of paper. So the phone. And one other thing I was just going to mention, because I know some people asked before, I live in Morristown, so I come in this direction, and I go in Knoxville's direction, because people were wondering earlier where I live. So as soon as we get the thing, we'll do the drawing. But I'd also like to find out other questions people have. And it can be anything about your home or business. Yes?
So what if you happen to be in a family where your husband's like a hoarder and you can't get him to get rid of anything?
Thank you, that's my question.
I've had some clients that I've coached on that, and one of the things we do is, the first thing is find them an area that they can have as a calm sanctuary. So you have a calm spot. And for this client, it was her son's bedroom, and he had moved out. But she also knew that if she put a TV in that room, her husband would be in there like a magnet. so she kept the TV out. But also sometimes you can negotiate, these are your rooms to keep whatever, and I'm not gonna say anything about what they are. Make sure you don't even need to go in there for Scotch tape, and that they can keep everything, but the deal is the living room or the dining room or whatever is gonna stay calm. So a lot of times it's negotiation. And remember why you marry her. You're wise.
Who are worse for it, women or men? Who are likely to keep all this stuff, men or women?
Research shows actually it's men. That's brought out at my last conference. But men have collections. But women are more likely to come forward and ask for help. Okay, so. Other questions? Someone had asked me a question earlier about their closet. Who was it was asking about?
Junk drawer.
Oh, the junk drawer, okay. Does everyone know how to do a junk drawer real quickly? I won't ask if everybody has a junk drawer. We'll just ask if you want to know how to do it quickly. Well, first of all, you go into one drawer at a time, and you take a table and you put some newspaper out, and you get really brave, and you turn the drawer upside down. And then you go in your kitchen and you get your snack bag, your sandwich bag, and your quart bag. And then you go through the drawer and you decide what's important to you. Now in my junk drawer, I always feel a need to have a few nails and screws. Don't ask me why, because I never use them. But that's a need. So they go in the snack bag. When I've done junk drawers with people, there's usually a ball of string in there that's wound around everything. Well, you don't try to save every inch. You pull out what you can, wrap it together, and that goes in the sandwich bag. Some people are compelled to keep shoelaces, odd shoelaces there. Well, you look at how big that glob is and decide which bag it goes in. And then, so whatever's important for you to keep, this is very individualistic what we have to keep in our junk drawers. Because usually there's logic like my screws and nails, but we have to have them. Whatever you do, then you put it in the right size bag. And then you go through the rest about it and you go, oh, there's some money in here. And you put that in your pocket. And maybe one or two things like, how did that get in there? It's supposed to live here. And then so you make sure that you got anything valuable out there. And you take the rest of it, you just wad it up in the newspaper and you throw it away. But then your junk drawer is everything when you need string. You pull out the bag, and if you want the screws or whatever, you pull out whatever you sew. And it's a quick project, it's fun to do, and it's very rewarding to be able to go in there and pull out what you need. So, how to do a junk drawer. Other questions? Anybody got a?
If you were a visual learner, I've been struggling with this, because I get things that people say, save it on email, it doesn't take so much room, or save it in your files on there. But if you're a visual learner and you want to, and come from a generation like me where you want to read things, does that work? It doesn't work for me. I can't find it on there lots of times. I have to go by the dates. When did I do that? Okay, who is it to? But does that affect with the visual learner thing?
Well, I saw that, but I just have a whole string of email files. So, like the like item goes into the file that was a name, and that way I can find it. I know there are programs out there that, can do a search for a word, but I'm never sure I remember the right word I had. So I like having the email files.
So you do it largely with, you file largely with email?
Yes.
What do you do about all the stuff that comes from?
Well, I'm talking about the emails that come in, I file them. So I can get my hands on them.
You
So-
don't store a lot of your email?
Well, I do, I delete a zillion.
Yeah.
But if, like, let's say, I have a topic 2014, and I have speeches and classes together under there. And so all the information about this program, when Jan and I were talking, went in that file. So when I needed, because we started planning this many months ago, when I needed it, I knew to go 2014 speeches and / classes. So that's how I identified it.
You thought someone had asked you about a closet, and they hadn't, but I'd love to hear this.
To do your closet, do it one section at a time. So, and then just, remember the 15 miracle, just do one type of clothing. It's best if you take all those hangers out and put them on bed or something. Because if not, you do the slide technique. I'll keep. Oh, I don't know, yeah, I'll keep. But if you actually take them out and look at them in another spot, you'll make a better decision. But again, instead of saying, I'm going to go do my closet, because what people tell me to do is they drag everything out on Saturday morning. And then all of a sudden it's, look at the time. They jam everything back. It's worse than it was to begin with. So just maybe do all your dress slacks, or just pick out one type of clothing and say, I'm going to do that. And if you are energetic after that, then you might do another one. But if not, at least you've completed what you did and you haven't made things worse. People tell me that they do this all the time with garages, pull everything out. Oh, look at the time. Yes.
I have a question for your daughter.
Okay.
With a mother that is disorganized, do you live in your own home? Do you have your own home? No. Okay, so you still live in her.
And she keeps your stuff organized too?
No.
I just wondered if you had your own home, would you even let her in your house?
Well, let me explain. Yes, I'm an organizer and I organize. But life is to live. Organization is to help us. And Rachel actually has 3 sisters and 3 brothers. So our life was very normal. There were toys all over. And actually the children were easier to organize, and now I have, I hate to confess, 4 cats. You don't organize cats. And I have pet toys all over. So my house is really very normal. If you come up to in my house, you'll find little mice all over the floor, and I have cat toys, not like mice. So, life organization is to help us when we're stressed, but life is not about being organized. But I don't know what Rachel will say.
It's not that everything has a place and has to stay in a certain place. It's for your comfort level, so that you enjoy being in your home.
Do you find some people can be too organized?
Oh, yeah. I had somebody, and I will actually talk to them about that. I had somebody call and want me to come in and see if there's anything she was missing. She went ahead and she bought all her greeting cards for the year for people. Now that's okay. She wrote the notes in them. Now, I would send off the note to Aunt Sue and forget that I included that Uncle Dick had died. That to me is scary. Can you imagine sending the card to Aunt Sue and Uncle Dick and, I'm not that, I don't have that kind of mind, but anyway, so yes, I think, again, if it's making people uncomfortable, it's too organized. So, homes are to enjoy. Any other questions, or maybe when you do the drawings, I know it's, Jan, I'm gonna let you.
Oh. I draw my own name, I guess I'll do it.
Oh. Barbara Allen. Okay. Barbara gets, and Jan was very nice. She said, if you want to bring copies of your book, you're welcome to, but I'm down to the last 4, so I'm about to have another reprint, but get a copy of the book. And it's written in a very short style, because who has time to read a lot? So it's what I call a grab and go book. If you want to pass that to Barbara.
That should go good with Barbara's business. They have facilities and people can store their stuff.
Oh, really? Oh, let's see. So, Rachel has, as you go out the door, Rachel has a little card that she's going to give you that has something that might interest you. By the way, the last sheet on your handout was kind of a bonus sheet. It's not, you don't need to go over it. but it's fun ways that you can have organizing projects happen at home. And I know fun and organizing don't usually go in the same sentence, but that's something you may want to look at later on. And as long as I mentioned the book, this is the cover. I don't know if some of you got the email and may have voted, but this is the cover of the book, the new book. And I'm down to writing the last 100 words on the back. And that's not as easy as it sounds because you really can't write what you want because you need to be thinking about SEO terms, things like that, and search engine optimization. So anyway, that's where I'm at. That's absolutely where I'm at. I think it would be nice if we all gave a hand to the Bank of Tennessee and Jan for arranging this. I'm going to leave you with a Kaizen quote, and hopefully your action cards will go with you. One small change can change your life. So pick one thing that you want to work on, and then maybe try another one, and don't forget your frogs. Oh, they're the little people who are stand-up men to remind the power of standing.
So don't forget your frog. Again, don't forget our 2015 event. I'd love some feedback on what kind of programs people would like to have, because I'm sure that we'll be planning those very soon. So, thank you all for coming.